What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. Today we'll be reading John chapter 11. I'm reading from the NLT, the New Living Translation, and without further ado, let's go ahead and dive in. John chapter 11, the death of Lazarus. So this whole entire chapter pretty much is going to be about one of Jesus' close friends, Lazarus. He died and Jesus brought him back to life. And then the plotting of how to arrest Jesus and stuff like that. All right. John chapter 11. A man named Lazarus was sick. He lived in Bethany with his sisters, Mary and Martha. This is the Mary who poured the expensive perfume on the Lord's feet and wiped them with her hair. Her brother, Lazarus, was sick. So the two sisters sent a message to Jesus telling him, "Lord, the one you love is very sick." But when Jesus heard about it, he said, "Lazarus' sickness will not end in death. No, it is for the glory of God. I, the Son of God, will receive glory from this." Although Jesus loved Martha, Mary, and Lazarus, he stayed where he was for the next 2 days and did not go to them. Finally, after 2 days, he said to his disciples, "Let's go to Judea again." But his disciples objected. "Teacher," they said, "only a few days ago the Jewish leaders in Judea were trying to kill you. Are you going there again?" Jesus replied, "There are 12 hours of daylight every day. As long as it is light, people can walk safely. They can see because they have the light of the world. Only at night is there danger of stumbling because there is no light." Then he said, "Our friend Lazarus has fallen asleep, but now I will go and wake him up." The disciples said, "Lord, if he is sleeping, that means he is getting better." They thought Jesus meant Lazarus was having a good night's rest, but Jesus meant Lazarus had died. Then he told them plainly, "Lazarus is dead, and for your sake I'm glad I wasn't there, because this will give you another opportunity to believe in me. Come, let's go see him." Thomas, nicknamed the twin, said to his fellow disciples, "Let's go too and die with Jesus." Because, again, at this point, Jesus is being pretty openly persecuted or pretty openly kind of hunted down by the Pharisees and the religious leaders. And I'll kind of dive into a short little history lesson about that time and the Roman occupation and stuff like that at the end of this chapter. So that's why they're just like, all right, we're going back to Judea. Jesus said we're going, so most likely we're going to die. So let's go with him and we'll die as well. So they were prepared to die with him. When Jesus arrived at Bethany, he was told that Lazarus had already been in the grave for 4 days. When Jesus arrived at Bethany, he was told that Lazarus had already been in his grave for 4 days. Bethany was only a few miles down the road from Jerusalem, and many of the people had come to pay their respects and console Martha and Mary on their loss. When Martha got word that Jesus was coming, she went to meet him, but Mary stayed at home. Martha said to Jesus, "Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. But even now, I know that God will give you whatever you ask." Jesus told her, "Your brother will rise again." "Yes," Martha said, "when everyone else rises on resurrection day." Jesus told her, "I am the resurrection and the life. Those who believe in me, even though they die like everyone else, will live again. They are given eternal life for believing in me and will never perish." Do you believe this, Martha? So I'm going to read that again. I highlighted it when I was reading it through it because to me kind of spoke a lot. It was pretty, in my opinion, pretty important, right? Jesus told her again, "I am the resurrection and the life. Those who believe in me, even though they die like everyone else, will live again." So just like everybody else, this fleshly bodies of ours are going to die at some point, but those who believe in him will live again. They are given eternal life for believing in me and will never perish, which meaning their souls will never perish, will never be forever separated from God. Do you believe this, Martha? "Yes, Lord," she told him. "I have always believed you are the Messiah, the Son of God, the one who had come into the world from God." Then she left him and returned to Mary. She called Mary aside from the mourners and told her, "The teacher is here and wants to see you." So Mary immediately went to him. So at that time, the mourners, they were kind of, whenever there was a loss in the family or something like that, there was these people that are professional mourners. So they would go to that and they would kind of cry out in despair and mourn pretty much for the person that died, kind of like to help support the family, I guess, from my understanding. But that's what is referred to over here. She called Mary aside from the mourners, which were those kind of people that come and they mourn with you to try to support you and things of that nature, and told her, "The teacher is here and wants to see you." So Mary immediately went to him. Now Jesus had stayed outside the village at the place where Martha met him. When the people who were at the house trying to console Mary saw her leave so hastily, they assumed she was going to Lazarus' grave to weep. So they followed her there. So again, these mourners, they would kind of like follow you and they would mourn with you and they would cry out with you and things of that nature. So they followed her there. When Mary arrived and saw Jesus, she fell down at his feet and said, "Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died." When Jesus saw her weeping and saw the other people wailing with her, he was moved with indignation and was deeply troubled. "Where have you put him?" he asked them. They told him, "Lord, come and see." Then Jesus wept. The people who were standing nearby said, "See how much he loved him?" But some said, "This man healed a blind man. Why couldn't he keep Lazarus from dying?" Jesus raises, this is the part where Jesus raises Lazarus from the dead. And again, Jesus was deeply troubled. Then they came to the grave. It was a cave with a stone rolled across its entrance. "Roll the stone aside," Jesus told them. But Martha, the dead man's sister, said, "Lord, by now the smell will be terrible, because he had been dead for 4 days." Which, very rightfully, that's what a human reaction would be, right? Even though Martha just admitted, she's like, "Look, I know that you're Messiah. I believe that you're Messiah. You're sent from God. But still, we have our human part in us, right? That kind of sometimes gets in the way." So, but Jesus responds with, "Didn't I tell you that you will see God's glory if you believe?" So they rolled the stone aside. Then Jesus looked up to heaven and said, "Father, thank you for hearing me. You always hear me. But I said it out loud for the sake of all these people standing here, so they will believe you sent me." That's what Jesus was referring to earlier when he was saying that I will receive glory from this, right? Then Jesus shouted, "Lazarus, come out." And Lazarus came out, bound in grave clothes, his face wrapped in headcloth. Jesus told him, "Unwrap him and let him go." So we see here, again, Jesus is raising yet another person from the dead. So we have the little girl that was very sick, right? And she ended up dying. And then while Jesus was on his way to her, and then Jesus pretty much told all the people that were already there mourning and things of that nature, he's like, "Hey, like, all of you get out of the house. She's not dead. She's just sleeping." All right? And they all kind of laughed and mocked him. They're like, "Yes, she is obviously very clearly dead." And then Jesus pretty much told everybody get out except for mom and dad. And then they went up to her room, and Jesus took her hand and said, pretty much, "Young maiden, young lady, go ahead and get up." And then she got up, and Jesus said, give her some food, and she's all right. And then now we see Jesus raising his one of his close friends, Lazarus, from the dead again. And Lazarus was dead for 4 days at this point, already buried in his tomb. And that, what other proof do you need? Like, Jesus is sitting here feeding all these people, the multitudes, the thousands of people with the few loaves of bread and fish. He's walking on water. He's healing the sick. He's healing the blind. He's casting out demons. He's teaching in ways that nobody else has ever taught before. He's raising people from the dead. At this point, anybody, especially the Jewish leaders, the Jewish Pharisees and things of that nature, should have, it is screaming in their face. Jesus could not make it any more plain to them of who he is, right? But they're still trying to kill him. So the plot to kill Jesus. Many of the people who were with Mary believed in Jesus when they saw this happen. Again, so glory to him, right? They believed in him. They finally recognized that, hey, this is the Messiah, the one that we've been promised. But some went to the Pharisees and told them what Jesus had done. Then the leading priests and Pharisees called the high council together to discuss the situation. "What are we going to do?" they asked each other. "This man certainly performs many miraculous signs. If we leave him alone, the whole nation will follow him, and then the Roman army will come and destroy both our temple and our nation." So this is where I'm going to kind of get a little bit into the history at the end of this, but we're starting to see this kind of why they're worried about, people following Jesus. So this man certainly performs many miraculous signs. If we leave him alone, the whole nation will follow him, and then the Roman army will come and destroy both our temple and our nation. So they're worried about the physical things. And one of them, Caiaphas, I'm not sure exactly how to say his name, who was the high priest that year, said, "How can you be so stupid? Why should the whole nation be destroyed? Let this one man die for the people." The prophecy that Jesus should die for the entire nation came from Caiaphas in his position as high priest. He didn't think of it himself. He was inspired to say it. He was inspired to say it. It was a prediction that Jesus' death would be not for Israel only, but for the gathering together of all children of God scattered around the world. So again, prophesying that it's not just for the Jewish people. He did not just die for them. He died for everybody. And later, once we start reading into some of the letters of Paul, we realize who the children of Abraham are. The Jewish people believe that they're still the only right heirs of Abraham, right? The one that God made the covenant with. But Paul kind of explains that no, all of you, all the Gentiles and everybody else are the children of Abraham. It's everybody who believes in Jesus Christ are the children of Abraham. But we'll get into that later on. So from that time on, the Jewish leaders began to plot Jesus' death. As a result, Jesus stopped his public ministry among the people and left Jerusalem. He went to a place near the wilderness, to the village of Ephraim, and stayed there with his disciples. It was now almost time for the celebration of Passover, and many people from the country arrived in Jerusalem several days early so they could go through the cleansing ceremony before the Passover began. So there's different cleansing ceremonies and different things that you had to do. That is like the Levitical law, which is in the beginning of the Old Testament, when Moses was receiving all the kind of like rules and instructions of what people should do, how they should behave, how to do the ceremonies, how to cleanse themselves before the ceremonies, and things of that nature. So there was a lot of very specific rules that people had to follow. So that's why they're all gathering in Jerusalem right now, several days early, so they could go through all these cleansing ceremonies, because a lot of the times, you had to cleanse yourself several times or several days in a row, depending on the occasion, right? So they wanted to see Jesus, and as they talked in the temple, they asked each other, "What do you think? Will he come for the Passover?" Meanwhile, the leading priests and the Pharisees had publicly announced that anyone seeing Jesus must report him immediately so they could arrest him. All right, so that's it for chapter 11 here, but now a little bit into the history lesson of the Jewish people being occupied by the Roman Empire. So at that time, there were many different empires that kind of conquered the Jewish people, and different empires kind of gave them different leniency and things of that nature. So the way the Roman Empire worked, whenever they took over, they made everybody kind of fall down and worship the gods that the Roman government kind of like established, like, hey, these are the gods, right? Because they were capturing people from Northern Africa, like Europe, into Middle East and things of that nature. Everybody had their different deities that they worshiped, and Roman Empire was just like, no, you're going to be worshiping ours. The Jews, however, just flat out refused. Another thing that the Roman Empire did not like at all is any sort of uprising. So any sort of trouble or anything like that, they tried to squash it. Any of the governors of those areas, pretty much if there's an uprising in your area that you're governing, like usually chances are you're going to get kicked out. So they try to squash it immediately. So the Jews, they flat out refused. So the Roman Empire had a special kind of deal going on with the Jews, like, all right, we're going to let you continue to worship your God as long as you pray for the emperor, for Caesar, every single time, right? So you have to pray to your God for the leader of the Roman Empire. And that's kind of like the deal that they had. So they knew that if there was some sort of a revolution, some sort of a uprising, then the Roman government would send in their legions to kind of like squash it, destroy everything. And how do you usually squash it, right? You come in and you just start wiping everybody out, and you start destroying everything so that people don't get froggy and don't try to do another uprising anytime soon. So that's what they were worried about, the Pharisees and stuff like that, when they said, what are we going to do? This man certainly performs many miraculous signs. If we leave him alone, the whole nation will follow him, and then the Roman army will come and destroy both our temple and our nation. Right? So they're worried that the whole entire nation is going to uprise and follow this man, Jesus Christ. They're going to follow him, and then there's going to be almost like this revolution and things of that nature, and then the Roman Empire is going to come in and wipe them all out, refuse, kind of like break off that deal to where they can still worship their God as long as they pray for Caesar, destroy the temple and things of that nature, which they ended up destroying the temple 70 AD. The Roman government came in and destroyed the temple in 70 AD. So that's what they were worried about. Again, they should realize that this is the Messiah that came. They have all the signs. They have all the prophecies. They're the ones that study the judicial law. They're the ones that study the judicial texts and things of that nature. So to them, as soon as Jesus would have came, it should have clicked to them. They have Torah and things of that nature, like pretty much memorized, a lot of them. So it should have clicked for them immediately as soon as Jesus came and started performing these miracles and things of that nature. However, they were so focused on themselves. They were so focused on, look at us, we're the leading priests and things of that nature. We kind of the ruling class in a way. We don't want that to get taken away. We've been following these traditions for a very long time. Like, who's this guy coming in and trying to change things and trying to kind of stir people up? And he's talking to the sinners. Like, he's not even coming to us, to the Pharisees. Like, how dare he, right? He's talking to all these tax collectors and the prostitutes and the lowlifes and the kind of like the sinners of the world, right? The forgotten, the unwanted. So they were so prideful, and Jesus went to the ones that knew that they were pretty much that they were sinners and that they needed him. They needed his salvation. So Jesus went to those people. So it's very important to realize our need for him. But anyways, that's why they were so worried about it, and they wanted to kind of hey, we gotta crush this, we gotta stop this right now so that we can continue our way of life, right, instead of his way of life. But that's a little bit of the history lesson there for you guys. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you so much for sticking around. If you stuck around for the whole entire video, if you have any questions, please leave it in the comments or message me directly. I will do my best to answer them. If I don't exactly know how to answer it, I'll do my due diligence and do the research to try to give you the best answer that I can. Anyways, next time we'll be reading John chapter 12. As always, God bless you and your families. I love you. Take care.